Hello, welcome to the adjudication training for ISSMA Academy's Phase 2 Vocal and Piano Solo and Ensemble. We're very excited about this training and the online accessibility. I want to thank you for viewing today and your interest in the amazing event for our Indiana students. I'm Scott Bradford, the Choral Education Director for ISSMA, and I'll be guiding you through this session as you work toward your endorsement and certification. In this video, you will be reviewing the adjudication sheets specifically focused on vocal solos, as well as small and large vocal ensembles. To complete Phase 2 training, you will need to take and submit the corresponding questionnaire for vocal, piano, solo, and ensembles after watching this video. There will be a link provided on ISSMAacademy.net. Phase 3 of the certification process will be completed upon fulfilling your next solo and ensemble judging assignment. With the sequential completion of all three phases, you will be certified as an ISSMA vocal and piano, solo, and ensemble adjudicator. District solo and ensemble events happen throughout our state on 2 consecutive weekends, usually falling on the last weekend of January and the first weekend in February. Qualified judges are needed to provide a positive and educational experience to thousands of Indiana students. ISSMA and the cooperating host schools offer these events for Indiana's youth to have an outlet to perform while receiving constructive commentary for their future growth as musicians. Solo and ensemble events for wind, percussion, and strings alternate with vocal and piano events through 8 area zones. The state is divided vertically into east and west by even and odd zones respectively. Take a moment and identify your zone by the county you live in. This may help you determine your availability and interest in a specific judging assignment. Many of you may teach or have family in different zones. If this is the case, please let our office know of these situations, as it helps us place you in assignments outside your residential zone. ISSMA zones are geographical, but are not based on time zones. As you can see, several counties in zones 1, 3, and 7 are on Central Time. Keep this in mind when you're preparing for your judging assignments. You will receive general information from the ISSMA office about locations and dates once you've accepted your judging assignment, and your host director will contact you and all of his judges through email to provide directions, schedules, room numbers, and meeting times and events for what you'll be judging. Upon receiving this information, you can review the events and groups listed in your room, entry names of schools for each performance, as well as the Group 1 literature choices to check against the corresponding required lists. Most morning meetings happen around 7 a.m., with your first performer entering your room around 8:30 a.m. You'll be assigned a judge's assistant and a door monitor to help you with the flow of the room and distribution of medal cards, the student's original score, and the like. These types of questions and information will be handled through both email and a morning meeting prior to judging. Today's training, however, will focus more on the adjudication process itself, so let's get started. Our solo and ensemble events follow a 5-tiered classification based on grade level, difficulty of music performed, and the experience and ability of the student performers. Group 5 would consist of students in grades 5 through 8, performing very easy music. This classification is reserved for inexperienced, first-time entrants in solo and ensemble events. Remember, students entering Group 5 events are entering ISSMA event for the first time. Group 4 events are geared toward beginning students in grades 5 through 9, performing easy-level music. This classification would be for most first or second-year performers. It's very important to be encouraging of Group 5 and 4 students and to have appropriate expectations for beginning level performers. And understand the newness of this activity may bring on a higher frequency of performance errors while learning to control such things as nerves. Group 3, solos and ensembles involve developing an intermediate level students in grades 5 through 12, performing medium, easy to medium music. Performance at this level should reflect some training of earlier stages of musical maturity. As a teacher, I would typically enter 9th and 10th grade students who are not receiving any private lessons in Group 3. And as a quick summary, that would mean 5th grade students may enter any of the group classifications, and there can be no 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grade students performing in Group 5. Similarly, there should be no 10th, 11th, or 12th grade students participating in Group 4. Advanced students in grades 5 through 12 who have not yet reached the proficiency level to perform in Group 1 literature should be entered into Group 2. These students will perform medium to medium difficult music, and adjudicators should expect a moderate to advanced level of music maturity. Group 1 level is our highest classification, consisting of the most proficient students in grades 5 through 12 playing difficult music from the current required list. Group 1 solo and ensembles that earn a gold rating at district level are eligible to perform at the State Solo and Ensemble Festival. Although adjudicators should have higher expectations, those expectations should be appropriate for the high school students and not college music majors. This system allows directors to enter their students in appropriate group levels based on criteria for each, as well as allowing students to progress through the different group levels as they develop and mature in their musicality and technical abilities. Students that receive gold ratings are encouraged to move up to the next highest group level following that year, with ultimate goal being a gold rating in Group 1. As an adjudicator, you may be listening to events in several different group levels in the same adjudication day. So it's very important to be aware that Group 1 level and the Group 2 level or the Group 3 level that you may be judging and what the criteria is for that particular classification. Experienced adjudicators adjust expectations based on performance and musical maturity of the performer. When adjudicating, the selection of music must meet expectations and increase demand of literature for each level as they move up the 5-tier system. Group 5 selections must be composed of 2-part voicing for at least 50% of the performance. And stepping up from there, Group 4 entries must have a minimum of 2 parts in their repertoire. Group 3 and Group 2 literature must satisfy a minimum of 3 parts. As mentioned earlier, Group 1 events must select from solo and ensemble required list for their event. Directors may enter any number of solos and any number of ensembles by using event listing and recognize solo and ensemble events. The 3-digit numbers are assigned to each solo and each ensemble as follows. Number 150 for piano solos. Number 160 for female vocal solos. And event 162 for all male soloists. Event 162 includes the unchanged male voices performing repertoire suitable for both vocal range and their maturity level. Your room may be comprised of all female vocal solos for the day, or your room may have a variety of performers of different gender, age, group, and abilities. As an example, a judge may have beginning male soloist in the morning, beginning female soloist midday, and then male ensembles to finish out the afternoon. Vocal ensembles can be comprised of 3 to 20 performers, with a few exceptions. Madrigal groups must start at the minimum of 4 performers and may go up to 20 total voices. Barbershop quartets for both male and female voices serve as the other exception, with 1 performer per part as tenor, lead, baritone, and bass within the quartet. Both event number 170, male barbershop quartets, and event number 171 for female barbershop quartets must sing a cappella for their performances. It's important to note that it is acceptable in this standard barbershop style for performers to change key. For instance, if the bass part is out of the range for that individual performer. Ensemble events are listed as either small or large. The small ensembles, event number 175 for treble vocal ensembles, event number 176 for male vocal ensembles, and event number 177 for mixed vocal ensembles are categorized by a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 6 performers, and have separate required literature for each corresponding Group 1 events. Events 175, 176, and 177 must consist of the same minimum number of performers as written parts, i.e., a 3-member ensemble may not use quartet literature, and a Group 1 performance enrolled in Group 177, as an example, must have a minimum of 4 members to cover all 4 parts of the SATB mixed arrangement. Large ensembles, then by definition, have more than 6 performers. So, in events 180 for treble vocal ensembles, Event 181 for male vocal ensembles, and Event 182 for mixed vocal ensembles. The range of the performers must stay within this minimum of 7 and to the maximum of 20 performers. Ensembles with unchanged voices should use SSA music and enter 175 as a treble ensemble, or Event 180 as a large treble ensemble. Just note that in the male solo category, as well as this ensemble, if a boy's voice changes after the entry is complete, those voices can sing their part down an octave. Madrigal groups must be comprised of a mixed group of not less than 4 nor more than 20 performers. And I'd like to give a few tenets of this event, number 183 for madrigal music, and special requirements for this group. Only madrigal music as a genre may be performed. Singing is to be a cappella and performed in the traditional style of madrigal singing. The group may appear in special period costumes, but there's no requirement that says they must do so. Now that you've been introduced to the different events and a few of the details surrounding the judging assignments, let's look at individual score sheets for the vocal and piano solo and ensemble events. All vocal solos use the same sheet for educational critique. You'll be asked to observe, analyze, and compare 9 categories and their descriptors to support your commentary. You don't have to use every descriptor within these categories, but use them to guide your analysis and help you as you offer suggestions for improvement or celebrate the performance skills. Vocal solos will be assessed in the areas of intonation, tone quality, breathing technique, note accuracy, rhythmic accuracy, diction and enunciation, dynamics and balance, interpretation, musicianship, and other factors. Both district and state events use the same sheets. However, only Group 1 events receive gold ratings, go on to qualify for state-level events. Check, circle, and underline, or use any other method of marking the descriptor while listening to the performance. Use the middle section specific marks to connect your explanation. Comments or details of the performance. Include measure numbers and brief remarks to support the markings on the left. The importance of specific comments is obvious, but there isn't much room for multiple sentences or complete sentences. Be brief, but be clear. As an example, just circling the term resonance without any supporting statement doesn't tell the student or teacher if it's a constructive criticism or a compliment. Time is limited, so again, I suggest that you make your markings while listening. Use these markings to remind you of the overall performance as you begin to assign points to the rubric and on the right side of the sheet. Groups 4 and 5 solo events run on a 5-minute time schedule. Groups 1, 2, and 3 solo events will run on a 6-minute time schedule. This includes their introduction to the performance as well as your formative assessment. Think of the front of the adjudication sheet as descriptive and the bottom and back of the sheet as prescriptive. Elaboration must happen after the performance. The vocal and ensemble sheet is in front of you. It shows a similarity to the vocal solo sheet and the use of 9 categories. However, on this sheet, the descriptors are adapted to handle the relationship of parts, ensemble cohesiveness, balance and blend, and concert decorum. Remember to manage your time by using your doorkeeper and judge's assistant to help you with the flow of the room. You'll need all your time for giving your best formative assessment and comments to improve the next ensemble preparing to sing. Stay on time. Your next performers will be entering as you finalize your comments, sheets, and rating. We ask that you not hold the upcoming performers from entering the room as you complete your task, because this will put the pace of your room off from scheduled times. I used the phrase guided use of rubric. This infers that your comments need to match the points you've assigned to the rubric at the level of the performance. You shouldn't use primarily positive comments and compliments on your sheet and then assign low scores. Your evaluation must be made against the performance standards while considering both frequency and severity of any errors. You as a judge are responsible for rating each category against the rubric, showing markings to justify this rating on the sheet. Remembering there is a slight difference between the half-point system of minor flaws and major flaws, as well as frequency of these types of errors. Major flaws and minor flaws can be distinguished by analyzing the factors such as group level, length of a piece, difficulty in occurrence. Your task is to make this determination. Is it a major flaw in this category or in this group level? Or is it a minor flaw due to expectations of the group level that they're entering? You must consider maturity and experience of the performer. Remember that a major flaw for Group 2 or for Group 1 performer may be beyond the maturity of a Group 5, 4, or 3 beginning performer. Look at the qualifiers for continuous, some, and frequent. Incorrect notes could be considered major flaws if they continually reoccur. Ask yourself, are these notes learned incorrectly or just a technical slip? Incorrect rhythms or lack of metric steadiness seem to be basic for singing and playing notes, but is a rhythm an interpretive error here, or did you hear it as a result of their nerves? You have to remember such tolerance. This is where your expertise comes in as a judge. Use the rubric to help you set the standard, and then be consistent with yourself as you observe the performance, and note the differences between 1 and 5, and 2 and 2.5 on the rubric above. Use this half-point system to help you rate the nuances observed. Don't just check the points off going through your initial impression. We can no longer authentically assess a performance by that thought. This performance deserves a gold or deserves a silver rating. Make suggestions for improvement, document specific moments in the score, and check that you have each category represented. Even a perfect performance needs to have suggestions for future growth. Teachers and students expect authentic and valuable feedback. A sheet with a perfect score and no supportive information markings is useless to director and singers when reflecting on their performance. In today's classroom, your commentary is often used for data and documentation of growth through learning objectives, so it is vital that you provide authentic and referenced feedback. To be outstanding in every detail is difficult, even for a seasoned performer. But if you take into account group and level, this can easily be accessed. Do not badger the student or comment on the sheet about just one specific pet peeve. Remember, the students are usually following the teacher's choices, teacher's edits, or suggested interpretive markings. Do offer all aspects of C, compliment, C, criticize, and C, course for improvement throughout your sheet. Then trust the rubric. It will take care of the final score. On the other end of scoring, giving a 4, unacceptable in every detail, should be seldom used. If you do use it, verify it with written markings that are clear as to your reasoning. Be encouraging. Seeing a rating of 4 for a first-time soloist in Group 5 could devastate that young performer. Remember, it's important to be very encouraging for all Group 4 and 5 students, and to have appropriate expectations for their performance levels. You have to discern the cause of any error. Question, was it caused by a slight memory issue or nervousness, or did it reoccur throughout the entire performance? Sometimes a student's performance is fantastic, except for one recurring wrong note or rhythm. If you feel justified in giving them a score of a 3 for frequent major flaws, but the rest of the sheet is indicative of a superior performance, the score will still be true, and the quality of the descriptors will help you uphold that. The challenge I find with the rubric is that several of the descriptors cross over into each other. Vocal intonation can be improved with better breath support, placement, and matching of vowels. When scoring, do not mark down a student more than once for the same issue. Think about ideas such as song length, repetition or mistake, and recovery of that error that occurred. As an example, when I have sung my songs for you, that is listed as number 148 for female solo, and number 146 for male solo in Group 1 events, is relatively short, but it has a vast amount of intervallic complexity, dynamic expression, and potential dialogue between text and the accompaniment. How often did this error occur? Was it a mistake of the rhythm that repeated and kept repeating as the lyrics returned, or not such a major issue? But more of a major flaw would be if the expressive markings and dynamics were not followed, except the dramatic climax on "I'd rather die at just the thought if I had loved" that occurs in the middle section. Intonation is defined as the ability to play or sing notes in tune. Did the soprano sing and go sharp? Was she over-singing the top note and creating tension in her neck and jaw as she hit the high G? Or, when Handel's Come Unto Him, is she just listening to the piano accompaniment? While listening, she still hits that opening F slightly off key. Or, are you listening to a group 4 male soloist that's struggling with the changing voice and he's approaching all his notes from underneath just to avoid cracking? Your decision, your observation. Note precise moments in the piece where they're out of tune. Give examples of what caused them to go out of tune and this poor intonation. With advanced singers, they should actually know what tonal center means and have the maturity to hear such nuances involved in tonality. So think about the appropriate use of vocabulary for that age and experience level. When assessing Group 2 and Group 1 advanced singers, these expectations of vocabulary should increase as mastery increases. Write about the shape and purity of vowel, tension and placement, approach of pitch, and the acoustics of upper-level partials. All of these are related to intonation issues. For beginners and intermediate levels, you can discuss wrong notes, as it's heard on intonation issues, matching pitches, and underdeveloped skill. Remember, there is a category for note accuracy. Distinguish between the two as you focus on breath support and proper placement. The rubric and points delineate between major and minor flaws. A minor flaw is when the situation of a Group 3 performance, when such as the opening fifth at the beginning of Homeward Bound, gives you what you feel is an obvious sense of key before the singer enters, and yet they still come in under pitch or on the wrong note. It would be considered a major flaw if the entire ensemble misses the pitches for each consecutive entrance, or the soloist continues to stay under pitch without hearing the problem. By using in-depth comments, you can coach and encourage the singers that perform by putting your best teaching on paper. Yes, I know the fast pace of seeing new performers every moment, but you have to begin writing your wisdom down on the adjudication sheet. That's the reality of the situation. But it's also the challenge you will face when adjudicating this event. On to tone quality. Some of the students will walk into your room and will have a natural, warm, and resonant voice. Yet with most students, you'll hear the details of the performance that need developing. Use the descriptors as a recipe for improvement. Consider resonance, control, placement, and focus. Record brief comments written that addresses the music. Beautiful control as you move through that descending pattern. Write down phrases like nice lift during the lyrical passage in the middle of page 3. Work on a consistent, warm sound that you showed in the opening of your performance. Or use the O vowel measure 17. That was gorgeous. Then on the bottom of the sheet, you can go in details, reinforcing the placement that you're looking for. Mention concepts like full tone, spin, freedom of voice, well-supported and energized sound. Use the terminology like focused and resonant, head voice and chest voice. Breathing technique. This technique is defined as a way of doing something by using special knowledge or skill. Remember this as you discuss this caption. The use of diaphragm, relaxation, and the use of all these learned skills. Be aware at the maturity and group level of the performance. Listen and watch to see if they understand the mechanics and proper breathing, as well as the use of air. Be cognizant that muscles used in breathing mature with age and show group-level tolerance when comparing point values of the rubric. Depth of breath support. That's something that every singer needs a reminder of, at least sometime in their performing career. Yet these comments are also overused as commentary. Support, or more support needed, written on the sheet, screams for an explanation of how and what do you mean. So explain these markings and the reasons for your notations. Write something like, try inhaling with the open sound before the entrance at measure 11. This will allow you the intensity of air needed for the entrance, as well as prepare for your vowel and resonant placement. Just remember prescriptions. Give them imagery. Things like moving breath forward, body alignment, proper use of air, manner and style and shape of the breath. And for beginners, help them, if observed, how they can better use their physicality to take that deep, full breath. The descriptors change slightly for vocal ensembles to address relationships like multiple voices and part work. Think of the full ensemble. Address moments where the individual section or group lost intonation, as well as the ensemble and their causes. Were the altos forcing the sound and singing below pitch? Was it due to chromatic or interrelated parts? Are you listening to one strident voice leading the ensemble from the established pitch? Discuss chord balance, tuning, polyphonic occurrences or clashes, floating or pressing the sound, sectional or part relationships. All of these are valid points to discuss for ensemble intonation. When considering tone color for the ensemble, focus on unity, agility, distinct color choices, richness, or lack of tension. You'll notice ensemble blend is added to the sheet. Make comments on the fullness of sound in all ranges, match of timbre, vibrato, and vertical approach to warm singing. A spread sound or an unsupported color is more characteristic for beginning singers' ability. An advanced 6th grade choir has a thinness to their tone. They may have been given great instruction in tall vowels and the use of consonants for clarity, but their sound won't ever have the same resonance as a high school or advanced choir. The coordination of their bodies, muscle, and control of breathing, their use of their vocal cords themselves are not fully matured. Their best sound may be the standard for this assessment. Tone color becomes a minor issue at this age and not a major flaw if you compare it to the expectations and maturity of this ensemble. So let's look at Ave Verum Corpus by William Byrd, and it's on the Group 1 listing for event number 177. Comment on the vertical approach to warm singing. Did the sopranos within the ensemble stay in tune as they moved toward the cadence? Was the air an imbalance or chromatic inaccuracy? Was this accuracy of note or rhythm or just poor intonation? How about the tenors? Did they have a timing issue with this setting the cadence, or did they struggle with the placement of the third and the vertical sonority? Or was this simply an error in intonation caused by the descending bass line and poor placement and improper breath? Or was it all of these? You have to decide. Then notate and document specific marks in the music and the solutions. Younger ensembles, listen to relating parts as the melody and fundamental sound move amongst each other. Good listening skills are intended and needed if the balance is there for that ensemble. Think about improving the breath process for a soloist or an individual member of the entire ensemble. Consider the basics. Do they breathe with their shoulders? Have poor diaphragmatic support? Do they adhere to the breath marks? Did they take a breath between words or phrases? How did they use the air? Was their breath sustained and relaxed? Quick and hurried? Tight? Or mention advanced concepts for groups 1 and 2 participants. Think about nose and mouth breathing, shape. Breathe through an ooh. Sip air. What was the manner or style of the entrance, and how should the breath relate? How did they release the air, and did they use speed or intensity or motion? For both vocal solos and vocal ensembles, note accuracy and rhythmic accuracy are the most objective categories on the sheets. Notate specific measures, rhythms, passages, occurrence of errors, all within the middle section. Help them understand how to correct any of these inaccuracies. Refer to the score and the indicators of tempo and meter. Give textual references to notes and words that were not sustained their full length. Stay away from stylistic choices and expressive possibilities. Save that for the later category. But do address factual issues of pitch, steady pulse, and counting. Diction. I believe these are excellent descriptors. If you use these descriptors as a reference for your commentary and consider ideas of clarity, pronunciation, consonants, diphthongs, and dialect will all work for you. The terminology such as languages, dialect, will more frequently be used in upper-level literature, and diphthongs and pronunciation are fundamentals you can address throughout all the choral performances. At this level, you have a great opportunity in this category to get to the nitty-gritty of refinement for all students. Cadaras, se ben crudele. is a standard Italian teaching piece from the 24 songs and arias. It can be found in several keys and several collections, even purchased online. An obvious example of Italian diction and pronunciation, it lends to opportunities to discuss bel canto style, ideas of pure vowels, diphthongs and fricatives, and textual meaning. The reoccurrence of the S, or the flipped or rolled R's, you have to arara, and the potential to Hoosierize that final R on languire, or elongate such spread vowels as say ban crudele may set you on edge, but keep your comments constructive and focused on the great teaching opportunity you have. It's only one descriptor on the rubric and shouldn't dominate your critique or push you toward an impression-based assessment. Correct pronunciation of a language is a practice skill. You may have a situation where the teacher has chosen the foreign language to challenge one of their best students, or the selection may be one from a private studio where the repertoire is for a college placement audition. It could be the student themselves takes German, French, or Latin, and their choice of the selection is because of their interest. And directors count on you, the adjudicator, to reinforce their mantra as they push their singers and choirs to select quality literature, not just working on a piece that's on the top 10 or favorite playlist. Rhythmic accuracy for vocal ensemble sheet has attacks and releases added to the full ensemble. Think about clarity of attack for that entrance. Was the error caused by a metric problem or ignoring a rest? Did it occur amongst all the voices or just a single error from a few individuals or individual? Did the underlying parts hold phrases or support the melody? Did they attack the rhythm of clarity or just chop it off during a harmonic resolution? Did they enter and exit as an ensemble? All of these are examples and good points for your listening and discussion. State expectations and document these clarifications. Did they perform the pickup notes with accuracy? Demonstrate advanced handling of rhythm or motivic dialogue? Did they rush? Did they take the ascending eighth notes or muddle through the 16th note runs? Consider how they handled each meter and meter change. Did they establish and maintain that steady pulse? Dialect and diction. This puts your focus on the repertoire selected for the ensemble. Group 1 soloists must hand you, the adjudicator, the music in the correct key and language being performed, and must be performed in the language and text found on the required list, unless otherwise indicated. Compositions entitled in English, however, may be performed in the foreign language if printed for optional use. With ensemble performances, the term clarity becomes layered into multiple voice sound, and you should be listening to inner and outer parts, as well as within the sections to evaluate this qualifier. Remember, developing ensembles have lower success in concepts such as beginning and ending consonants, shaping of vowels, closing their diphthong, purity of vowel color, and vowel match. So consider the appropriate choices, their effectiveness, inflection, and repertoire demands. For advanced performers, you can go further in your expectations. They should know the meaning and translation of their foreign text. They should be conveying the meaning of the text in their performance. I've been told by many judges that they consider interpretation as the determining factor between a gold and silver rating. Even though we can argue both sides of this comment, it is real that we as individuals are pulled in by emotional and expressive performances. You will possibly be sitting through all levels of singers, so don't overreact to a performer that comes in telling the story, presenting themselves in a professional manner, if so far you've only sat through beginners that are still working on expressive qualities. By all means, compliment and encourage them, but stick to the analysis of each category as they perform. On the other side of the coin, if you've just experienced an excellent performer, don't penalize the next soloist that enters your room for not being at the same level of musicianship without analyzing the descriptors. Use the 5-tier groups and the half-point system to create an authentic and true evaluation. As an example, if you're listening to repeated musical phrases such as "sometimes I feel like a motherless child," your training and mine has taught us to reinstate the text differently each time it occurs for effect, tone, mood, and emphasis. But this may be something you have to point out on your sheet for the beginning or intermediate soloist. What will help you in these categories is on this slide. Again, the descriptors. Notice that tempo is placed under interpretation and meter is placed under rhythmic accuracy. Distinguish between your comments for both these areas. Refer to tempo markings of the composer or arranger and the performer's choice. Listen to timing between accompaniment and solo. And of course, look at stylistic considerations such as swing, straight tone, and vibrato. You can discuss historical trademarks and cadenzas, da capo, ornamentation and repeats. Comment on the texture and approach to the purpose of the selection and their intended audience. Style, musicianship, phrasing, and expression are dependent to some degree on the selection of the music. Yet each event needs to be assessed on the individual performance and the song selected. It may be the 12th time that day that you've heard On My Own, and each singer represents that first note differently, some choppy, some with large space breathing, some not hitting the first note because it's too low in their register. Others will sing it with passion and understand the love lost represented in this piece. Then at times you'll hear an ensemble that's giving their best performance, beginning girls, and allowing their choir the opportunity to participate in an ensemble for the first time. And all the girls have heard their best friend's sister sing Annie's version of Tomorrow last year and demand that that be their solo. Remind yourself to look at each singer and the genre they've chosen, the style they're representing in their performance, and how well they've done just that. Broadway songs and popular tunes in general don't show as many dynamics in the score or give as many expressive marks as art songs or classical literature. The interpretation then becomes more personal and varied. This could mean that by the end of the day, My Favorite Things may not be your favorite selection, but you must give a fresh assessment to each rendition. Perhaps a young male singer comes in to sing O Mistress Mine. Yes, compliment the use of such literature, but also listen to the range, tone quality, and style, and give specific comments on the performance. If the selection exposes vocal or musical maturity that could have been better served with other literature, it's appropriate to let him know. The adjudication sheet for categories number 7 through number 9 for the vocal ensemble adjudication sheet are moved around a bit from the vocal solo sheet. Dynamics and balance. These are paired together for consideration for both section and full ensemble handling. Listen for the range of dynamics throughout the ensemble's performance. Did they adhere to the score markings? Did they create an emotional impact? Was it done by all or all sections? And was that balanced? Were crescendos and phrases done by the ensemble or an individual singer within the group? Balance within the performance refers to section and individual to individual. Yet one question you may have is, can I discuss balance between the accompanist and the singer? Discuss becomes the key word here. The piano accompaniment should be a balanced part of the performance, yes, and the communication between the director and performers is expected. But let me give you a little background. You'll be hearing varied accompanists. The accompanist you'll hear may have a variety of skills and responsibilities. In your room, you may just have had a teacher who's playing for multiple students, rushing from room to room. Or you could have a hired accompanist that's been working with this single advanced student, preparing the selection for state and college auditions. They'll be at different levels. So be careful, as well as professional, when making any comments about the accompaniment or the accompanist. ISSMA does allow smart music technology and recorded piano as accepted accompaniments. I mention this because you must decipher between when the accompanist reminds them of the score markings such as dynamics and expression, or when the dynamics are dictated or overshadowed by the pianist. There's no penalty or no credit for the accompanist's ability, but comments can be made on the bottom of the sheet. Remember, teachers do share these sheets back home with their students in the classroom. Style, tempo, interpretation, musicality, and expression have all been combined for ensemble evaluations. In your written comments, you can discuss ensemble cohesiveness. Did the performers act as an ensemble? Look around at each other. Embody the music. You can obviously talk about the musical plan and if all sections followed that plan. Style of repertoire is easy to discuss by event numbers. Barbershop quartets, such as number 170 and 171, have stylistic norms within their genre. Showmanship, interpretation, and stage presence are all tenets of their craft. As far as balance of parts, it's not necessary that the melody be present and dominant at all times. It has to be in relationship to the other parts. Is it part of the character? and this can be discussed in your style and musical selections and the comments you make. The specifics of genres, such as gospel music, can easily be guided by your performance descriptors. The use of genres and specific nuances in diction, articulation, style of entrance, coloration of vowels, and timbre to adjudicate these renditions work as well. Moving now to the category of other factors. You can include on their commentary such things as entrance and exit, stance, posture, movement, and professionalism. All's fair game. I've always told my students, your performance starts when you step off the bus. But in reality, it starts with the impression as they enter the performance venue. We ask that as an adjudicator, you go beyond this impression and go into the analysis and comparison of all stages of the evaluation. So, you can't critique them in their non-performance time, but it's totally appropriate to comment on their concert decorum as they perform. I find the dictionary definition of decorum quite helpful. Ideas of etiquette, courtesy, graciousness, refinement, discretion, attentiveness, and high-mindedness, and so on. These terms give great starting points when you're writing your commentary and the attributes of the performance, such as the ensemble's attention to the director, sincerity of expression, pay attention to transitions, sectional and individual connection and communication, visual energy and engagement. This may be an appropriate time to discuss how ISSMA defines accompaniment. Directors, teachers, or anyone may accompany the choral events. The manual currently states solos and ensembles at all ISSMA sites may be performed with or without accompaniment, or with recorded piano accompaniment. And for vocal solos, piano or recorded piano, these are the only acceptable accompaniments. For vocal ensembles, the only acceptable accompaniment is piano or recorded piano. They could add percussion equipment on this recording as long as it's notated in the published score. If the selection is unaccompanied or is considered an a cappella selection, it should be obviously performed without accompaniment of any kind. As mentioned, madrigal and barbershop entries must be performed in that manner. Pitches may be given at the start of the performance, but no assistance should be given to assist the singers in sustaining or matching of pitches. In this training, I've referred to required lists for Group 1 vocal and piano events many times, so let's take a look at this list. ISSMA specifies the use of the Indiana required list for all Group 1 solos and ensembles. The required list is published in 6 separate booklets, 2 of which are for piano and vocal events. All solo and ensemble entries must perform in the group in which they are entered. However, the noted publisher on the ISSMA solo and ensemble list does not need to correspond with the music available for sale. Only the composer and arranger addition and revision must be comparable. Use the list numbers to prepare for any Group 1 entries and check the accuracy of the entry before the performer sings or plays for you. A Group 1 entry may change selections. If the new selection is on the required list, indicate the new 3-digit number on your sheet. You'll be given a reference copy that day during your assignment by the host director to use as a reference. Both publisher codes and source lists are printed there for you to verify any listing. Group 1 vocal solos and ensembles must perform in the language of text found in the required list. Any Group 1 solo or ensemble not performing in the designated foreign language will be adjudicated as a Group 2 event. Compositions titled in English, however, may be performed in a foreign language if printed for optional use. Group 1 vocal solos sometimes have an asterisk next to their listing that is placed next to the song title to designate advanced literature and repertoire. You'll also see a double asterisk, which signifies repertoire that is appropriate for the male unchanged voice. As an adjudicator for this event, you'll see up to 60 solos and events during your day. To each performer, their teacher, their family, and guests, this is a big deal. They have chosen to perform and in most cases have worked diligently to prepare for today's event. The video training thus far has been focused on the rubric, group level expectations, and comparison of the descriptors. Just important, however, is your responsibility as an adjudicator. Let me offer a few keys for success as we discuss the points of professionalism. Number 1, establish a climate and the atmosphere. Make sure it's open and relaxed. Be inviting and welcoming to each performer. At the same time, make sure the performance space has a feeling of respect for the performer as well as the audience. You're responsible for the atmosphere of this room, and you can so easily set that tone. Look up during the performance. To many of these performers, you are the face that will bring them back to perform again, or the voice of encouragement that will keep them singing. When you begin to write comments, the novice performers will automatically begin to think you're writing something that they've done wrong. So try to balance your visual engagement with your written commentary. Walking into a dead and silent room with a judge finishing her comments is nerve-wracking and intense. So welcome each performer or performers, or at least acknowledge them, letting them know that they can stand to the right or stand by the accompanist. Give them instructions of where to place themselves, whether it be by the piano or just to the side, before you're ready for their performance. Try to maintain a pleasant demeanor during your performance, especially when performer or performance requires more understanding and constructive criticism. Number 2, be consistent in your number management, in your demeanor, and your written comments. Try not to write a novel for one group or solo, then limit your supporting comments on the other. Remember, if you clap for one, you must clap for all. Number 3, don't show partiality. Many times students from the same school come into your room and they listen to a friend. They may recognize how you've treated these other performers or friends that they have seen earlier in the day. Number 4, don't attempt to give a private lesson or recruit for your personal musical endeavors, your church choir, school, or university. Abstain from calling them over to your judges area for words of encouragement. This gives an impression of you not being impartial and can be misconstrued by observers. I know as educators, our first instinct is to help, to nurture, to guide, and relate. You won't or don't have time to do this for each solo or ensemble that walks into your room. And you don't want to put them or any of the performers in a situation that can be misconstrued. Number 5, be aware of your choice of words. Inflection and perceived tone often taint your meaning from the original intent. Balance your written commentary to the markings you make on the page, for the descriptors to the left, and numeric values assigned to the rubric at the top. Flowery, wonderful comments and a lower score just doesn't make sense, nor the reverse with a higher rating, but multiple critical remarks. Number 6, don't generalize, be specific. Number 7, as mentioned, follow the 3 C's of compliment, criticize, and course for improvement. Number 8, don't weight the categories, your personal bias, or with your comments on the score. And be sure to give very detailed comments before addressing any rule infraction. Justify the score given for each box. Number 9, don't rank the groups. Adjudicate each performance to the expectations and standards for the event and group level. Number 10, be visually observant as well as orally. A pleasant greeting and your attentiveness during the performance goes a long way when offering a musical critique or compliment. Use your eyes as your pencil. Keep your cell phone hidden. Number 11, know the rules of any event. Don't create your own. If you have a question, utilize your judge's assistant and the host director. Number 12, always give the performers the opportunity to perform their best. Show your personality. Tap into your experience. Be real. Be helpful. Time management is a big part of adjudicating. Be on time. Stay on time. You'll need to monitor the amount of time you write while keeping an eye on the pace of your room. We need the room to stay on or very close to the scheduled times. Many of the performers will also have other events. The students can only enter one vocal solo, but they may also have a piano solo. Many of the singers perform in one or more vocal ensembles. This puts the teachers juggling numerous students and accompanists while going from room to monitor or even accompanying for these students. You'll need to be flexible here with the printed schedule, but do not allow the students to perform ahead of time or their scheduled time without the consent of the director or parents. This causes a big problem when guests are expecting to come to hear their performance and it goes before their scheduled time slot. Performance time should be no more than the scheduled time minus 1 minute. You are charged with balancing your greeting, your introduction, the performance itself, and the time to write, all within the time frame. Suitable cuts help with this. They are allowed within the literature and can be made by the student or teacher if the selection is longer than the duration. However, the total performance must demonstrate the demands of the composition, and the judge's copy needs to be marked with these cuts. Provide a positive educational experience. Know that a judge may stop a performance which runs past the allotted time. However, a judge should never stop a performance and ask to restart it at some other point in the composition, or stop it before the time has elapsed. Prior to each performance, check and double check that you have the proper sheet for the student and event you're evaluating. Either you or your assistant should introduce the performer, their name, school, and selection being performed. ISSMA color codes the adjudication sheets to assist in accuracy. Pink for vocal solos, goldenrod for vocal ensembles, and yellow for piano solos. ISSMA and the host school provides a pre-printed label for the adjudication sheet for every event. This label includes the soloist or ensemble leader's name, scheduled time, and the school. Below this information will be the event number and group level. You will also see the number of performers entered in the event as you judge. Infractions. Before we finish this phase of the video training, I would like to go over a few infractions that may occur during your assignment. Yes, on the morning of the event, ISSMA has the host school run a judges meeting to remind you of potential infractions and reviewing the culture of this event. However, I'd like to walk you through a few of the specifics now. Music and scores. Each performer should hand you or your assistant a valid musical score with the measures numbered. Memorization is not required for solos at district level with the exception of Group 1 piano solos. Memorization is required for both vocal and piano solos at state. If the pianist uses music at district, the infraction lowers the score one level rating. Selection of music. All Group 1 vocal soloists must hand you the adjudicator of the music and the key and the language being performed, and must be aligned with the designated list. Students may sing in their best key suited for their individual abilities without having to be classified as a soprano, alto, tenor, or bass. Any key available in single editions or collections included on the source list may be used in the instances where the key has been specified. Yet, it's important to know that an ensemble may be judged with one or more missing parts for common only. One such example would be a quartet that sings with only 3 members. Because of reasons out of their control, their baritone didn't show up to perform that day. Yet they are anxious to receive commentary and want the opportunity to show off the work they've put into this performance. Direction of the ensemble. Small ensembles must perform without an external director. The exception comes when a student director is also part of this ensemble. Ensembles with these event numbers that are directed by another individual from any place in the room will be penalized 1 division. Large ensembles may be directed by a student director who might or might not be in the performing ensemble. Finalizing your sheet after the performance is basically a checklist. Be sure you've marked the rubric for each category. This is a common mistake and slows down the adjudication process for all. Complete your written comments. Place a check mark in the box to indicate the score for each of the 9 or 7 categories. Ask yourself the question, if I didn't mark any rating points on this sheet, how much benefit would the student derive from just my written comments? Total your points. Circle the earned rating. You'd be surprised how many sheets don't have these simple steps done. Check for any penalties and sign the sheet. Give the music and the medal card, rating card, to your judge's assistants. Both these get handed to the doorkeeper and returned to the performers after their performance. Be sure that the score sheet only goes to the runner who's responsible for taking it to headquarters and not to the students or teachers. Hold all DNA sheets and turn them in at the end of the day to headquarters. What's a DNA sheet, you ask? These are the did not appear sheets for solos and ensembles that chose not to perform. Never discard them or mark them up. With numerous events, you'll never know when a student or ensemble suddenly appears at the last moment for their evaluation. Medals and ribbons are provided for every soloist and every performing member of an ensemble at both district and state solo and ensemble events. Please designate the earned reward on the medal voucher card and marking it with either a G, S, B, or participation. The performers then use this medal card to pick up their gold, silver, or bronze medal, or a participation ribbon at the host designated table. Always presenting yourself in an acceptable manner is an expectation of being an ISSMA adjudicator. In a word, professionalism. You will work with people. People have opinions and make judgments off impression. Their impression of you and ultimately ISSMA comes from your professionalism. So be polite. You're dealing with students, parents, teachers, and their guests. You'll have a judges meeting, lunch, and sometimes break. Please know that the schedule and the times are important and report on time, if not early, to the assignment. Know the location of the morning meeting. Study the information sent to you by the director from the host school. You will be sent an invitation to judge and an assignment letter via email from the ISSMA office that outlines the day's events. Then the host director will contact you, giving you pertinent information, including the directions and meetings. Try not to demean a teacher through your comments or corrections, or verbally to any performer. If you feel like there's something you want to tell the director privately, write them a note with the specifics of the event or your concern, and at the end of the day, ask the host director to place that notice in an envelope for the director to read privately. Dressing. Professionalism isn't something we can assume anymore. Our culture expects and accepts dress shorts, footwear, and casual attire in many situations. We ask that you dress for success. When the performance is finished, the performers often don't know how the remaining process works. They're anxious and excited about finishing their solo, and it's very easy to put the singer or pianist at ease. Just immediately mouth the words, such as thank you. Tell them that you'll send the results out in the hallway shortly, thank them, and show personality. Remember, certain courtesies of any performance. When checking your time on your cell phone, this can be considered as lack of focus, or can be perceived as you not giving the performer your best assessment. A few other comments. Judges, especially piano judges, need to thoroughly check the piano in the room before they begin judging. Let the host know before you begin of any of these concerns. Please allow the pianist and or accompanist the opportunity to feel the piano and let them know that they can do this as you finalize your comments from the previous event. Remember, what you say, what you wear, and how you act, and all the other actions that you present will be analyzed. The perception will identify your character and those watching and listening to your conduct. I greatly appreciate your interest in becoming a certified adjudicator for piano and vocal solo and ensemble events through ISSMAacademy.net. These events give students the opportunity to perform, yet the process of selecting the solo, preparing the solo, and performing the solo is invaluable. This particular event gives students who may not have any other avenue to play or sing a chance to perform. It offers group levels that encourage both their growth and future participation. Through your involvement, each student is exposed to a pedagogy of singing and playing and performing, while given the opportunity to develop their musicality, their listening ears, and themselves as individuals. Thank you. Thank you to all the individuals that assisted me in this production of the video, and thank you for being willing to provide positive educational feedback for future solo and ensemble events. Remember to click the link that takes you to the Phase 2 Solo and Ensemble Vocal and Piano Questionnaire to finalize this portion of the certification training.